What one weird trick does a profession actually hate? Most disposal problems can be fixed with a few turns of an Allen wrench on the underside of the disposal. It manually fixes jams. Most people seem to not know this and call plumbers instead. Recently when mine stopped working I discovered the reset button on the bottom as well. Saved me a lot of money and time. I don't really care that much, but a regular customer at the McDonald's I work at has learned how to beat the system. Sausage Egg McMuffin, $2.99. Sausage McMuffin, $1. Round egg a la carte, on the side, $0.79. He pays $1.79 and puts the egg on his muffin himself. Saves him $1.20 every time. Ask your hospital if they have a prepaid discount for most of their procedures. We did not have maternity insurance when my wife got pregnant with both our kids. I went to the billing office 6 months before she was due in the nicest hospital in our town. When I asked how much labor and delivery was, I was quoted in excess of $12,000. I simply asked if there was a discount if I paid in advance. I was quoted $2,900. I made payments for 6 months. About $500/month, and walked into the hospital on the day she went into labor. Delivered, stayed for 2 days, standard, and walked out. Never received a bill. Repeated the process 2 years later for our second child. I think the bill was $3,100 that time. I was positive I would receive another bill, but we never have. I used to work in medical billing. There were hospitals that would reduce the bill by 90% if you paid in cash. Gift cards don't expire in the state of California. If a gift card has a monetary value, i.e. a $50 Amazon gift card, then it legally can't expire. If it says that it has expired when you try to use it, contact the retailer directly and inform them that you live in California. They will issue a replacement. As a part of the Card Act, I believe this is the case in every state. Worked in the garage door business for a few months. So many times we'd get calls out my garage door isn't closing. Get to the house and there is a leaf in front of the safety eye. Before calling, make sure A, there isn't anything obstructing the safety eye. B, the unit isn't unplugged. Another real easy call is wiring issues. Sometimes technicians will not put electrical tape on any wires they had to splice. Do a quick check to see if there is any wiring that's touching what it shouldn't be. Also, on the unit, verify that the wiring is actually connected to the unit. Lastly, if you're having issues with it going halfway down up then reverses, it's likely the force. As the unit gets used more and more and gets age, the force needs to be adjusted up. On most units, there are 2 screws on the side or back of the unit. Take a small flathead and adjust the up and down force up a notch and test. These 3 tips will save you a $60-90 service call. Knowing that many so-called locksmiths are the drill and replace type, they know nothing about actual lockpicking and will just bust out the drill the lock, and overcharge you for a cheap replacement lock, usually Kwikset brand. The 1040 EZIRS form. Tens of millions of Americans can use it. It takes about 5 minutes to fill out and it's no harder than completing a library card application. The H&R Block, Jackson Hewitt, etc. Mass market tax services would prefer that you be A, terrified of tax filing and believe it can only be done properly for you by paid professionals, and B, deluded into thinking an airplane load of money is going to drop on your house that only those professionals can find. Neither is the case. For most people there is no secret path to a giant surprise windfall refund. And if you get a huge refund you have screwed up your withholding rate and should stop lending the government so much money interest free in the course of the tax year. If you have a simple picture, like most people, file your form yourself. And if you are among the minority with a complicated tax picture, the last place you should go for help is a storefront operation in a mini mall. Get a reputable private CPA. I have been lifeguarding in some capacity for 10 years. The one weird trick that pisses me off is that kids can be unaccompanied by an adult if they are over 7, and some parents use pools as cheap after school care. No problem for the lifeguard, but when you see the same lonely kids for 5 afternoons a week it gets depressing. My sister used to work at a pool in a bad part of town. She noticed the same kid every single day and felt bad, so she talked to him and tried to befriend him. At the end of the season, I live in a snowy state. He asked her if she would be his mom. She was only 15 at the time. Pretty sad stuff. The Starbucks secret menu. If you have to use it, tell them the ingredients, not the name. We aren't trained to make a cookies and cream dark chocolate birthday cake frappuccino. Yeah, they are so secret the baristas don't even know the recipe. If you want the drink, you better bring in the recipe. Extreme couponing really does work. A lady came through my line today and had a preliminary total of $168.59. After I ran a handful of coupons, she got out of there with a total of -$0.16. That blew my freaking mind. Even though it was in my line, I could only smile and laugh at it. I wasn't even that excited when I used to watch that show on TLC back in 2008. We paid her to take merchandise off of our hands. My CSM didn't know what to do, so had to get up the ass into my line. After he verified I did everything correctly, he opened up the till and said give the lady $0.16. Legal Zoom documents. Not because it's taking business away from us, but because we have to clean up the mess it makes when people try to use them. Accountant here, and I used to work for an accountant that specialized in tax work, filing personal income taxes for clients. These accountants hate it when people are smart enough to do their own taxes. But here's the thing. Filing taxes is easy. In most cases, your taxes are extremely easy to file. Take your tax slips, enter those numbers into a free tax program, and file it. In some cases, it only took about 10-15 minutes to complete a client's file, and we charged them a few $100. Want to avoid paying so much money for an accountant to file your taxes? The one weird trick is to get off your butt and punch in your tax info yourself. You literally just look at your pieces of paper and type it in. Security guard here. Just know you can walk away and tell the guard to pound sand, unless of course you actually have broken the law and they witness you do it. If a security guard demands to see an ID, you can tell him no, and just walk away. Security is not a sworn Leo, and cannot legally force you to show it, and cannot detain you unless they eyewitness you break the law. Some places post signs that this establishment has the right to search your bag's property. No, they don't. They have the right to ask your permission to search your bag and ask you to leave if you decline, but it is illegal for them to just grab your stuff and go through it without cause and without your consent. If you haven't committed a crime, and a store security guard manager says show me what's in your bags, it is 100% legal to simply say no and keep walking. I work as an internet sales specialist for a chain of car dealerships, and if the average person knew how easy it is to get the cheapest possible price on a new car, I wouldn't have a job. Literally all you have to do is start a bidding war between two dealerships, submit inquiries online to both of them, and explicitly tell them that you're shopping. Anytime one of them comes at you with a deal, just present that number to the other one. They are going to keep trying to beat each other until they financially can't anymore, and that's when you have your cheapest price. The real kicker to this is that dealers trade vehicles between them all the time, and the market isn't as saturated in new cars as you may think. If you're looking for something very specific, and not super common, there's a very good chance that they're trying to sell you the same car. It's almost invariably thinking you can do away with an entire profession by using one weird trick. As a former web designer, for me it's thinking your nephew who knows about computers and has done his own web page is a viable alternative to a professional web developer for your company website. But you said you like the dancing skeleton and flame gifs. Electrical engineer here. Fixing fuses by putting a coin or a bit of wire in there. That's a big dangerous stupid no. That's why you use a 22LR round instead. It varies by state, but there is a cooling off period after you sign a residential lease in NJ. It gives you 3 days after you sign to back out of a lease for any reason. I've used this trick before after signing a lease. The realtor I was working with was surprised and disappointed that I knew about it. I work in publishing for a company that publishes professional journals where researchers publish their research papers. There is a burgeoning industry of what we call predatory publishers out there. They will contact professors, students, and other professionals who might want to publish research and tell them they can get their stuff published right away. They then turn around and charge these people crazy fees for publishing their work, which should never happen. There is usually some fine print in whatever agreement the authors sign. What's worse is that these places create journal names that sound very similar to legitimate journals and will create websites that look like the legit journals. They will also name real people as part of their editorial board without ever telling these people they are on it. I'm an esthetician and those secret skincare tips pee all of us off. Stop putting baking soda or lemon juice on your face. Pinterest. Ferrites. Is your design putting out too much emissions? Being victimized by interference? You could spend days, weeks even, trying to filter that out. Or, you could slap a ferrite on that crap and call it a day. Whenever you see a little knob on a computer cable or the like, you can be pretty sure an engineer somewhere threw his hands up and said frick it, time to go home. From what I hear, it's more like walking into the emissions testing center with a box of various ferrites and slap them on until it passes. Latin teachers hate Google Translate, not even because it can be used to cheat. Oh no, my friend. It's because the translations it gives are utterly, woefully, laughably incomprehensible. No matter how bad you are in class, you are better than Google. Common Latin foreign language teachers hate Google Translate. It isn't just Latin. As a designer who does a lot of photo retouching, everyone says the iPhone can take professional photos. So I'll do that instead of pay for your photographer to take professional photos. They then wonder why their catalogs and brochures look so professional. There's only so much magic I can do before I charge you more on retouching hours than you would have paid my photographer. The part I used to hate the most, my nephew's son friend's son's dog's brother's unicorn knows how to Photoshop, so he did the logo. Hands you a 8GB flash drive containing a 300k 100x200 GIF that they just downloaded from company website. Then throws a fit when it looks crap blown up to A3 size, even after you trying to tell them it would look crap. As a cop, I hate CSI and other shows like that. No, I can't get prints off this rock that someone threw in your car. I'm sorry that you watch a show where 8 people work for an entire week on one crime, but that's not the way it works in the real world. Complaining at a restaurant to get free food. Go frick yourself. Repeatedly. If you have nothing at hand, feel free to borrow my biggest knife. I worked at McDonald's for a while and so I learned a couple tricks about the place. One thing a lot of people already know is you can order fries with no salt and then they will just give you them right out of the oil and they are really hot and fresh. However, they don't taste as good because they don't have salt. What a lot of people don't know is you can just order fresh fries. Then they will just make them like normal and then give them to you right away. Vastly superior. This goes for almost anything that is cooked. You can order it fresh and they will make them fresh, so long as you don't mind waiting a couple minutes for them to actually cook the food. I'm an RN. This is one trick many people use to get into a room ahead of other people. Tell them you have chest pain going down your left arm. We take that seriously and will bring you right back. The reason we hate this is more than the fact you are a douche that just cut the 95-year-old lady waiting for 4 hours with back pain. It's because you are going to get rushed in, have a CBC, BMP, troponin, EKG, IV, chest x-ray and IV, and when the doctor comes in and wants to talk about your chest pain that now has mysteriously disappeared, they will be confused as to why you now are concerned about the fact it burns when you pee after hooking up with that chick at a club the other night. This requires an entirely different set of tests than what we have just done. You are a dong. You will be ignored. We hate you. We will make fun of your burning dong. You will receive no creature comforts while there. You will not have your call light answered. We have ways of torturing those that knowingly do not follow the rules. Dong. Police officers hate it when you say no comment and wait for your lawyer. There are so many completely legal tactics and tricks the police can employ to get you to confess crap. There are also so many unpredictable implications of answering even the most innocent questions. If you are arrested, just remember, the police are not your friend and they do not have your interests in mind. Do not say anything to any of them. not the arresting officer, not the guy behind the desk, not the guy who brings you food. No one. There's a reason why your right to remain silent is specifically stated, because it's one of the most important rights you have. Use it. Oddly enough, you do have to say one thing: I am invoking my right to remain silent, or some variant thereof. It's not enough to simply remain silent. You have to acknowledge the right and that you're taking advantage of it. Buying Vanguard index funds is a simple, efficient way for young people to invest their money, which is hated by every financial advisor. As a real estate agent, I hate when other agents use their phones to take pictures. Hire the professional photographer to do that. Your client hired a professional to help them sell their house instead of trying to sell it on their own. Front the money and treat your client right. Hire the photographer. Inpatient therapist in acute crisis stabilization. In my area, homeless, lonely, detoxing, personality disordered people really can just walk into the emergency department and say they're going to kill themselves, or that they're hearing a voice that's telling them to make an attempt to get placed on a 72-hour physician hold. They get sent to us, and very often, they get 3 days of food, therapy, medication, and utilities that they will never pay a dime for. I'll work to get their first month of medication covered, make a follow-up appointment for them, frequently place them in group homes, assisted living, and then assist with their discharge transportation. But nothing is stopping them from just shuffling from hospital to hospital, repeating the process until they reach their goal. For example, a bus ticket out of state, a safe haven from pee-off drug dealers, or an air-conditioned place to wait for their disability check to deposit on the 3rd of the month. There are literally scores of people in my city who do this, and I know most of their families, histories, and drugs of choice. It makes it very hard to care for my actual patients, who are going through some of the most frightening and reality-twisting crap you can imagine, when 1/3 of my census is malingering for the purposes of secondary gain. Utah has a program where all the chronically homeless people get a home. It prevents this from happening because their basic needs are met. They then get the therapy, counseling, etc. that they need. It has been very successful and saves a ton of money because they are not using the just to get a few days shelter. It keeps them out of jail and off the streets. Plumbers and pecs. Before pecs, sweating was something that, while not terribly difficult, people were afraid to try on their own. With pecs, you turned running supply lines from a $40 HR job into something a 7-year-old could do effectively, especially now that the tools cost less than a basic service call. As a graphic designer, I hate when people use the live trace function in Illustrator and call it a job done. Even if the average eye doesn't catch it from afar, most designers can definitely tell. Not a lawyer, but the insanity ploy. No, it doesn't work. It almost never works, and it is not in any way an instant and perfect defense. It has worked perhaps less than 0.1% of all times it has actually been used, and even then I wouldn't define the result as winning the case. To successfully pull the insanity gambit, you must have an expert to declare that your client is insane. Having gotten them, your expert must now undergo strict scrutiny by the prosecutor, the judge, and the jury if you have one, on why your expert thinks your client is insane. Having proven this, you must now prove that their insanity is to such a degree that they could not have been in any control of their actions. Think this solves your problems? No, this isn't the movies. You've just proven a man's insane. Why would we let him go free? He now has to undergo psychiatric evaluation, likely ending in him being sent to an institution for a period longer than what his sentence might have been, if not an indefinite one under discretion of psychiatric experts. Anytime any client suggests this to their lawyer, unless they are actually that insane, which makes the suggestion unlikely, they will likely get turned down. Anytime a client demands his lawyer to try it, they almost always will be given a choice of not using the play or of getting a different lawyer. If they have no choice, they will make clear to the court that they do not want to do this. When you hear a lawyer say, "My client has instructed me to," it usually means, "Please don't think I'm actually stupid enough to do this by whim." I heard a segment on public radio of a guy, I think in Europe, who pleaded insanity to get out of a 2-year jail stint. He is perfectly sane by his own account of the story. He's been in a psych ward for 6 years now, and no signs of getting out because his therapists won't give him a clean bill of mental health. Drug companies. Generic over-the-counter medications really do work as well as the name brands. I'm still trying to convince my parents to quit buying the $10 bottles of NyQuil Extreme Cold and Flu with 4 different ingredients instead of the $3 generic cough suppressant when all they have is a cough. This weird trick where you buy HDMI cable from a place that sells them for a few dollars per meter instead of hundreds of dollars. The TV salesman profession hates that trick. Basic service people should hate the internet. I've used Google and YouTube to save hundreds of dollars fixing appliances around the house and my car. Legal Zoom and those do your own will or closing or whatever books. We lawyers hate those, not for the reasons you may think. People do this crap wrong. Then we have to deal with a legal battle over poorly executed documents because scumbag brother or sister whoever decides mom and dad meant to leave everything to them. Lawyers are humans and we do not like seeing families hurt each other for money because good old dad decided to cheap out on the will. People, just freaking pay a lawyer to do your estate plan unless you want that one greedy relative filing lawsuits against all the rest. Seriously, if your estate planning costs $50, it's not a good idea. Pretty sure the nutritional supplement industry hates actual medical research, or would if people actually listened to it. I actually want to dispel one here that we don't hate despite a lot of people thinking we do. I'm a sound mixer for TV, but my grounding was in music production and I got into sound as a musician. Generally producers do not hate bedroom producers. Look man, yeah, studios have shut down all over the place and are not even close to as successful as they have been because more and more people are able to make the music they want in their own rooms. Now let me explain why we don't hate this. This breeds competition, and competition means development. Some guy didn't have the plugin he needed, he codes it and shares it, we all benefit. Music is subjective. A producer will always leave their mark on a track even unintentionally, so whatever you make will truly be your music. And that creates variety. In most cases, especially in smaller studios, producers and engineers use this as secondary income, and already have a main job. A good 80% of the guys I worked with had more than one job, were still putting food on the table. Studios are a great environment to produce a well-practiced and rehearsed piece. If you're going in with a half-finished chorus and a kinda something like this verse, we're not enjoying it either, and we'll probably have to work extra hours after you leave to make it sound passable so we don't lose credibility as a producer. Use what you have to practice your sound. Go to a professional when you want to finalize and fine-tune it. All that being said, studios still serve a purpose. Don't avoid them entirely all your life if you want to go big. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.